The world stood still the moment the news broke. Diogo Jota was gone. No warning, no goodbye, just silence. The kind that chokes your breath before you even realize what you've heard. Within seconds, social media drowned in disbelief. Fans refreshed their feeds, hoping it was just a cruel rumor. But it wasn't. It was real. And the world of football shattered like never before. Cristiano Ronaldo was the first to react. Not with a tweet, not with a statement, but with complete silence. He was in a closed-door training session when a staff member whispered the news into his ear. This presence say Ronaldo's face froze. He sat down on the grass, stared into nothingness, and didn't move for several minutes. A man who had lifted trophies with pride, faced the fiercest stadiums with steel in his eyes, was now broken. Later, he simply posted a black screen with the words, "Rest easy, brother. Heaven just got its finest forward." No hashtags. No photos. Just raw emotion. As the news spread, tributes began to pour in like floodwaters. Jurgen Klopp reportedly had to excuse himself from a press conference. Eyewitnesses say his hands were trembling. He canceled all training for the day, locked himself in his office, and refused to speak. Mohamed Salah wore Jota's jersey during warm-ups the next day, then stood in silence in the middle of the pitch, eyes closed, hands behind his back. The team didn't train. No one spoke. Grown men sat in the dressing room, heads down, crying like children who just lost their home. Meanwhile, fans outside Anfield began gathering. They brought scarves, jerseys, candles, thousands of them. The gates were flooded with people lighting candles in rows, each one whispering prayers, leaving flowers, and scribbling Forever 20 on pieces of paper. The club flag was lowered. The locker room where Jota once tied his boots was left untouched, his jersey still hanging, boots still at the corner, untouched, undisturbed. In Portugal, his hometown saw church bells ringing every hour. Local TV cut their program short. Kids on the street wore his name on their backs. One old man was seen sitting by a wall, silently staring at a mural of Jota, whispering, "He made us dream." But no tribute, not even Ronaldo's, captured the gravity of this loss, because what was taken wasn't just a footballer. It was a soul that lit up stadiums, a presence that made defenders tremble, a teammate who lifted others when they were down. And now, nothing, just echoes in the tunnel. Just an empty number on the team sheet. The football world wasn't mourning a loss. It was mourning a legend who didn't get the time to become one. When the doorbell rang that morning, everything changed. Diogo Jota's wife was sipping tea by the window, unaware that the world outside had already started to grieve. Two men in suits stood at the door, heads down, no words spoken, just a folded paper in their hands. The moment her eyes caught the trembling lips of the officer, her cup slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. What shattered next was not just the silence of the house, but the entire world she had built around him. She screamed. A sound so sharp, neighbors rushed out in panic. She fell to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, clutching the officer's sleeve, begging him to say it was a mistake. But there was no mistake. No mix-up, no hope. Diogo was gone, and she was alone. Their 5-year-old son, still in pajamas, peeked from behind the staircase, rubbing his eyes. "Where's Daddy?" he asked. The room fell silent. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. How do you tell a child that his hero, his bedtime storyteller, his best friend, will never walk through that door again? His parents arrived an hour later. His mother, pale and frozen, kept whispering his name like a prayer, hoping somehow it would bring him back. His father didn't speak. He walked straight to Jota's old childhood bedroom, sat on the bed, picked up a photo frame. From the side table, and cried silently. No shaking, no sound. Just tears rolling down from a man who had raised a boy into a warrior, only to bury him as a memory. That night, the house was filled with relatives, friends, and strangers, all gathered under one roof, not to celebrate, but to mourn. Candles lined the staircase. Photos of Hoda on every wall. The sound of sobs came from every room. In the living room, his wife clutched his last worn hoodie, like it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't slept. She just kept staring at his last message. Be home early tonight. Miss you. At the hospital, the body was handed over in complete silence. No one dared to look directly. Even the nurses stood back, with hands folded, heads bowed. His mother, refusing to believe it, asked to see his face one last time. When the cloth was lifted, she fainted. His father caught her, but he too looked like a ghost, standing next to another dot in their hometown. Church bells rang through the night. The priest couldn't finish his prayer. His voice cracked midway. People from across the country sent flowers. A handwritten note arrived from a little girl. You were my hero, Hoda. I wanted to grow up like you. His wife clutched that. Milton whispered, Me too, ... I still want to. No cameras were allowed inside. No press, no statements. The family requested privacy, but the pain was too loud to hide. Reporters outside the gates described the atmosphere as unbearable. One journalist wrote, I've covered war zones, but I've never seen grief like this. In the corner of their living room, a family portrait still hangs. Hoda, his wife, and their son laughing under the sun. Now only two remain. And an empty chair that will never be filled again. They say the dead leave behind more than just memories. They leave inside the church. You could feel the weight of every breath. Hoda's coffin was placed at the center, draped in the Portuguese flag, with his Liverpool jersey folded neatly on top. The number 20 still shining faintly under the soft candlelight. His wife sat in the front row, hollow-eyed, clutching a photograph of him with their son. Her fingers trembled as she traced his smile in the picture. Beside her, his son wore the same jersey his father had worn in his last game, too big for his small body, but somehow ... Just right. Jurgen Klopp walked in, eyes swollen from days without sleep. When he reached the casket, he fell to one knee, placed his hand gently on the wood, and whispered something that no one could hear. Then he stood, wiped his face with shaking hands, and walked away, because any longer, and he would have collapsed. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't speak. He just stood in the back, arms crossed, jaw tight, trying to be strong. But when Hoda's childhood video began playing on the screen, a tiny boy kicking a football in the narrow streets of his village, Ronaldo broke. His tears weren't loud, but they were endless. He walked out before it ended, whispering only, "This shouldn't have happened." The priest began his prayer, but midway through he paused. His voice cracked. He looked up at the ceiling, as if asking God why. No answer came. Just the soft sobbing of those who had shared a locker room with Hoda, a meal with him, a memory with him. Outside, fans had formed a human wall along the road. Scarves held high, red and green flags waved quietly. Some fans were on their knees, whispering prayers. Others held signs. You gave us goals, but left us memories. One young boy had drawn a picture of Hoda with angel wings and handed it to the security guard to place near the coffin as the funeral procession began moving toward the cemetery. The streets turned into rivers of sorrow. People dropped rose petals onto the car, each petal a goodbye from someone who couldn't find words. The silence was so deep, you could hear hearts breaking at the burial site. As the coffin was lowered, his mother wailed, not loudly, but like something inside her soul had shattered and would never be whole again. His father stood still, eyes locked on the ground, lips whispering something only God could hear. Then came the moment that stunned everyone. His son stepped forward, holding a football. Slowly, he placed it on top of the dirt, and in a voice barely audible, he said, "Play with the angels now, Daddy." Grown men wept openly. Reporters dropped their cameras. Even the sky, which had been holding back, opened again and began to pour. The crowd began singing softly, not a chant, not a cheer, but a lullaby Hoda's grandmother used to sing to him as a child. Someone had once recorded it. His wife had shared it on Instagram years ago, and now it echoed across the cemetery like a final goodbye only he could understand. Later that evening, Anfield lit up every screen in the stadium with just one image. Diogo Jota, 1996 to 2025. Gone too soon. Never forgotten. No one left that day. The same days had passed, but the world hadn't moved on, because some names don't just vanish. They echo. 3 days after the funeral, Liverpool FC officially announced that no player would ever wear the number 20 again. The jersey was retired, permanently, framed and placed in a glass case at Anfield's Walk of Legends, right beside Steven Gerrard's armband and Kenny Dalglish's boots. Tourists from around the world stood still before it, some in silence, some in tears. In Portugal, his hometown decided to rename the local football stadium. What was once a humble field where Jota played barefoot as a child was now called Estadio Diogo Jota, the Field of Dreams. The mayor said in his speech, "This isn't just a tribute, it's a promise that we will never forget the boy who made us believe." His wife, though still drowning in sorrow, did something no one expected. She released a short video from his private collection, clips of Jota laughing, dancing in the kitchen with his son, kissing her on the forehead after every match. The final clip showed him staring into the camera, smiling, saying, "No matter what happens, always smile. That's my rule. Smile like it's your last day." That video went viral across the world. Millions watched. Millions cried. FIFA honored him in their official award ceremony. A minute of silence was held before the Best Player award was given. On the giant screen behind the stage, Jota's photo appeared, not in his club jersey, but as a child. Barefoot, messy hair, a ball at his feet. The caption read, "He didn't just play the game, he gave it his heart." In schools across Portugal, children wrote essays about their hero. Not Ronaldo, not Messi, but Jota, because his story wasn't about trophies. It was about heart, humility, and silent greatness. One child wrote, "He made me believe you don't have to be loud to be legendary." An anonymous artist painted a mural in downtown Liverpool, 40 feet tall, showing Jota mid-celebration. Arms open, eyes to the sky. Underneath it, in bold red letters, "Legends never die. They rise above the final whistle." But perhaps the most emotional moment came during a match between Liverpool and Manchester United. The 20th minute arrived, and the game stopped. Both teams, all fans, every coach, every camera, all paused. The crowd stood and chanted, "Jota, Jota, Jota." Tears streamed down faces.